Good afternoon, everyone. Leland Live with April Marie for the next, oh goodness, almost 2 weeks. I'm very excited about this. I can see AJ on the other side of the glass. Doesn't look so excited. No, I'm just kidding. AJ's looks just fine. Very excited to be here. Excited to get to hang out with AJ, catch up. So I was kind of planning out the show today and then kind of gaming out a strategy for the next couple of weeks, which I'm really, I think I've got some great guests lined up for. So we're going to have some of those candidates who won their primary runoff elections in studio with us to say hi and talk about what's next. The general elections are, they are what they are. But we do, in fact, we've got the running for lieutenant governor. We've got the New Yorker who announced he was giving up his state house seat down in Montgomery. For those of you who are unfamiliar with him, there's a Democrat who will be on the ballot for lieutenant governor. He was a state house member. I guess he is still a state house member, but he gave up his seat because he was going to leave. He was going to move to New York. He, in fact, changed his mind on that. He said he had accepted a job, changed his mind, decided to stay in Alabama and run for lieutenant governor, because that's about the same thing, returning to New York and being the lieutenant governor of Alabama. So that guy doesn't stand. Actually, most Democrats don't stand a snowball's chance. But we'll continue to talk about those races as the days go on. But I know you've probably heard, and I say probably, you've heard from all of the normal hosts what their takes are on these elections and how they kind of all played out. But I want to give you my take on it. Also, a few things I have in store for this. So we'll have some guests in studio to talk about those elections, to talk about what's next and what their plans are for the state. Got some local elected officials that I want to get in here with me. It's nice when I've got a little more time to book people out. JD from Breaking Bread will be coming in, not next week, but the following week he'll be coming in and hanging out with me for a little bit. I didn't time it right. I literally talked to him about it, not realizing it was his birthday yesterday. So I know, happy belated birthday to JD. I saw the picture. AJ, did you see the picture of what they did to his office?
Yes, we talked about it on the air yesterday.
Well, so I was like, send me a picture. Yes, I was listening to y'all's program yesterday afternoon. So happy birthday to JD. So he'll be joining me when he returns from his trip. And so lots of good things planned. One of the things, and I was listening to Leland yesterday, and Leland was talking about Independence Day and 4th of July, and so much of what has been lost in history. And so I figured that today is kind of an election recap. I want to talk a little bit about Father's Day. I want to encourage the listeners to call. So Father's Day snuck up on me. And so it is Friday afternoon, it is 2:00, and me and the kids have to work out a Father's Day gift between now and Sunday. So if you want to tell me the most meaningful Father's Day gift you have either given or received, please hit us up on the phone lines. That's 205-545-9950 or toll free 844-455-9950. You can also send a text message, and I'll have AJ check those out for us. But the most meaningful gift you have received, because I know it. How many of those World's Best Dad trophies can you get over the years? AJ, have you had you're relatively newish. You've got young kids.
Mm-hmm.
Father's Day. Is there a Father's Day gift that you've received so far that really stuck out with you?
Sure.
I mean, they're little.
Yeah,
they're still little.
Yeah, they're still little.
They're not.
They give me those wonderful drawings.
Yes.
So
the
I
drawings.
have a couple of those in my office right now.
There you go. So the drawings, the mugs. Besides those things, what are the most meaningful gifts you've had on Father's Day? I would love to hear from you guys what those dads want. What do you want for your office? What do you want to hang up at home? Whatever it is, give us a shout out for that. But today I want to talk about, and there's a lot going on. Obviously the Iran agreement covering the news right now. But we've got a lot of things happening here in Alabama, and you know how much I love my Alabama headlines. So we're going to talk about some of those Alabama headlines, some of the things that I've covered in the last couple weeks. I don't know how much you guys know about what's going on with the probate judge, Yeshiba Blanchard. In that case, I was just researching that last night. If you are not familiar, buckle up. That's a 120-page report. And it's one of those things where it would be funny if it weren't so sad, if real lives weren't impacted by the allegations that are being made against this woman, and the impact on the staff, her staff in the probate office, and the individuals there that there are claims that she retaliated against, and then the impacts on our community as a whole. I wrote a story yesterday on, and I don't know if AJ remembers this. I don't know if y'all remember this, but here in Homewood, there was a homeless man who goes by the name Peaches, who was arrested for indecent exposure. And he was, for 2 days in a row, standing out at an intersection here in Homewood, exposing himself to drivers. I've got images. It is what it is. But Peaches ended up in Birmingham jail again. It was like the fourth or fifth time that I could figure out that he had been arrested. And unfortunately, he chose to take his own life. That ties into that Yeshiba Blanchard story. And I'm going to tell you how, because one of the things she does is help move people out of crisis beds, out of mental health crisis beds. And people were being left in beds, which means there were no space for other people to come there. There are real life implications to what was going on here in the probate office. So I'm going to get into all sorts of local stuff, all sorts of state stuff, and of course our national stuff. But we are going to take I looked up and I thought we were going to take a minute break, but we're not. We're going to jump right on in that. Okay. Well, first I'm going to start with the elections. AJ, are you over the elections? Are you just so talked out of everything having to do with these primary elections? Did they wear you down?
I mean, there's a little lull right now. Yeah, I'm kind of good, but then obviously it's gonna ramp back up when we get closer to November.
It is gonna ramp back up. It's not gonna. I feel like this drumbeat against Tuberville is not gonna die down, because we've got crazy people on the right who are playing right into the leftist hands and going, oh yeah, something's amiss here. We don't, all the evidence he's provided, all of the people who have looked at the evidence, we're not going to believe them. We're going to believe a cockamamie story that he's not qualified. So I feel like that Tuberville, that will not die down anytime soon. But so Tuberville was obviously that was not a race for the runoff. But those other races, they were crazy. So the lieutenant governor's race, I have to say, and I have been doing politics. I am 45 years old. Yes, I'm one of those ladies. I don't care if you know how old I am. I am 45 years old. I started doing this in my early 20s. And I have to say the ads ran by Wes Allen were some of the absolute worst I have ever seen in my career. I mean, nothing stuck. We're going to attack him on his name. Then we're going to attack him because he's engaged and not married, and we're going to insinuate that there's something wrong with his engagement and his fiancée. No one who has ever been around John Wall, we had him here in studio and met John and Brittany, would ever think anything untoward about their relationship. But Wes Allen and his supporters really went after John Wall in that relationship hard. And that, it just crosses lines, it crossed boundaries, and it really upset me. It frustrated me. And I know this because I get that. I cannot even tell you. And what do? I do radio and I write for 1819 News. But I hear, oh, she's not married. Oh, all that implies. I'm like, what? What? I can't have political opinions because I'm not married? That's ridiculous. John Wall was apparently not qualified to hold office because he's not married, which is one of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard in my entire life. So what were the attacks on him in that primary? It was he was unmarried. He's a butterfly farmer, which, by the way, we've had some weird, and I say that adoringly. I loved Chip Beaker, not to be confused with Chris Beaker, who lost in this last election cycle. But we had a catfish farmer too. I don't mind if we have people with small businesses that are a little off the beaten path. That didn't bother me at all. But they didn't like Wes Allen tried to make a thing of his name, Nehemiah, as opposed to John. I know a lot of people who don't go by their actual first names. He tried to make a thing of the engagement, tried to make a thing of, and at the very end, Charlie the raccoon. And I could have fallen over. You guys, I am not kidding. I laughed so hard. And I have to say, Jeff Poor was the one who sent the Charlie ad to us. And I was like, this isn't real. There's no way this is real. And then he sent it as connected from Wes Allen's campaign. And I was like, this is ridiculous. This is the craziest thing ever. Here's what Wes Allen didn't do. He didn't tell us what he was going to do in the office of lieutenant governor. And then he turned around and talked about how much John Wall couldn't do in the office of lieutenant governor. I think that every representative, and there are ones on the list that I really have respect for and I like, but there are legislators who got egg on their face in saying that John Wall couldn't accomplish certain things as lieutenant governor, when I am sitting here looking at Will Ainsworth leave the office, and he left that office having accomplished a lot of things. If you are not familiar, and maybe I'll reach out to him while I'm here in the next couple weeks, and by maybe I will. Well, Lieutenant Governor Will Ainsworth took an office where you didn't have to do much. Kay Ivey didn't do much. Kay Ivey didn't do much as governor either, but that's neither here nor there. But Kay Ivey didn't do much as lieutenant governor. Will Ainsworth prioritized our veterans, the amount of workforce development stuff that he got done for veterans and their spouses and making sure benefits. It will impact lives for generations to come. Will Ainsworth weighed in on a number of pieces of legislation that we're moving through, weighed in on Magic City Acceptance Academy, which he didn't have to do, the school right down the road from the radio studio. He weighed in on that. So the idea that the office of the lieutenant governor does not give somebody a bully pulpit and an opportunity to push good policy is silly. It's silly. I go back to, you don't even have to just look at Will Ainsworth. You can look at Jim Ziegler and what he did as auditor, being a watchdog. Jim obviously won his race for Public Service Commission, which that is going to be fun. Buckle up, people. Jim Ziegler back in office. And not just in office, but in office in this newly reconstructed, and we'll get into that a little later, Public Service Commission. There is going to be, oh man, nobody pays attention to them. Nobody has paid attention to the Public Service Commission for years and years and years. Every now and again, you'll hear a pop or something about something. Utility bills go skyrocket due to weather or due to other things, but then it'll still bring up a conversation about the Public Service Commission. Jim Ziegler, he loves attention. He loves getting out there. He loves talking about things. So we're about to see an office that has relatively been, a commission that has relatively been very press averse, see this new makeup with now appointees from the governor, and now a 7-member board. We're going to see this become quite the fun and entertaining media circus. But talk about, I guess we're going to just start there. That will be my first post-race analysis. I have never in my life seen a campaign run as poorly as Wes Allen's campaign was run. And all the while, John Wall was out here doing all the things you got to do to win. Out there talking about the issues, out there at events, out there just running his race, minding his own business. Love it. All right, we're going to break down Attorney General race, the U.S. Senate race. A lot going on there. We're going to get into, as I said, Father's Day and some of the state and national headlines. You guys hold tight. It's April Marie filling in for Leland. Well, have we fixed it so that the YouTube can hear the music, or do they just see me bobbing my head over here?
Oh, they just see you bobbing your head.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. So for the 11 people watching on YouTube, I will tell you this, and I didn't do it before today, but I have a game in mind, which is I'm going to create, you know how you can go on the websites and like create your own bingo card?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to create a 2 weeks of AM YouTube bingo card. We're going to see, and you guys just let me know. Send me a tweet, send me a DM, send me a whatever. If you want the bingo card, maybe I'll just put it on my Facebook or something. But of all the things that I will inevitably be caught doing on the camera, so it'll be like putting on my lipstick, eating, dancing to a song I then claim I hate. We can make a whole list of the things I will inevitably do, because I went back the last time I filled in for a few days and I watched the YouTube, which, by the way, is torturous. But I was looking for very specific things, and I thought, okay, I'm going to do that this time. So I'm going to make myself a bingo card. We'll see if I can what we can find out me doing there.
All right, so I already know dancing is gonna be one.
Dancing is definitely gonna be one.
You're gonna dance and then you're gonna kind of give like a side eye. Like,
that's what I say. Yeah, I'm gonna dance to something. And then I'm gonna be like, "What was that, AJ?" And again, you can't hear the music on the YouTube. You just see me. We're gonna have. I should have put, had I made it before today, I would have said I would have spent 20 minutes curling my hair only to walk outside and have the humidity just kill it. Like, you can't. It looks like I walked through, like a tornado or something right now. But I actually spent time doing my hair today, which I don't know why I did that. It was ridiculous. But we'll have that. We'll have putting on lipstick. We'll have eating food. I of course have the drinks, multi drinks all the time. I came in double fisting it. I didn't bring John Bird a drink, but I did bring John Bird a unicorn cake pop, because that was the most ridiculous thing that they had at Starbucks, and it just seemed appropriately John Bird. So and he had a thing tonight, so hopefully I gave him a good sugar boost before he goes and does his thing. As I mentioned earlier, Father's Day weekend. I'm going to remind you guys all day. It's going to be a whole thing. Very big fan of Father's Day. Here's the thing, and I'm going to talk a little bit today, just because I can, about my father. And if you guys want to call in and talk a little bit about your fathers and the influence and impact they have in your life, I'm going to open up the phone lines to that too. It is a Father's Day. If you guys want to if you guys want to call in, I'm very blessed, and I drove here today. The sitter is using my vehicle, and so the Suburban, and so I drove here in my daddy's truck, and I call it my daddy's truck. He passed away. It's my truck now, but it's still going to stay my daddy's truck, and I was very blessed. I was very blessed with my fathers. Now, unfortunately, and for those who didn't know this, it's going to sound confusing. I'm gonna say it anyway. I don't even know if AJ knows this, but I had 3 dads. My mom was married 3 times, and so I have my biological father, which is where I got the truck. I had my daddy, John, which is who gave me the name Fogel and who adopted me. And I had my daddy, Rodney, which is who raised me. And all 3 of them passed away early, like in their 60s. And so I'll talk a little bit about the 3 of them today. The first one to pass was my father, Rodney, who passed, and he passed in a car accident and before my middle son was born. And he, those stepfathers, if you have one, and if you are one, just chose to be a dad, didn't have to be. And he was married to my mom for over 30 years, and he was the dad who was there every day. And he's where I get my work ethic. He always worked 2 or 3 jobs, and it was nonstop. I have a pizza delivery guy, and I don't know if he's listening today. His name's Mike. Mike, I adore me some Mike, okay? Mike is literally my pizza delivery guy. He is my regular guy. I think if he sees my address or sees my name, he listens to 99.5. He 9 times out of 10 will bring me my pizza. That's what my dad did for years and years. My dad was a pizza delivery guy, and he worked at grocery stores. And later, at some point, decided to work running lost bags from the airport. Like if you lost your bag and they had it delivered to you, my dad did that. But the work ethic I have, and people will comment about it all the time, is, how did you write that many stories? Or how did you work so hard on this? And you do radio and you do that. It's my father. It's my stepfather. It's my daddy, Rodney. And so I was just so blessed. And so when you fathers are out there and you're hustling and you're working and you're thinking, I wish I could do more, be more, whatever with the kids, know they're learning from you. Know that they're getting that from you. And as long as you're present when you're present and you're able to do what you can, it's tough. It's gosh, this economy, it's tough for anybody right now. But those of you working those multiple jobs, those hard jobs, those, midnight stocking at the grocery store. My dad did midnight stocking at Walmart for a while. I learned so much from him. I just learned, you pull yourself back up if you have a whiny day, if you're feeling sick, if you're whatever, and you get out there and you do the job. And each of my dads taught me kind of a different lesson in life, and that was Rodney's job. Daddy John was the softer, gentler one. I call Daddy John my Eeyore, John, and so he was my, take good care of yourself. And he talked really slow and with a deep Virginia Southern accent. And he called himself my daddy. So if he called, it wasn't your daddy's on the phone. It was if you called in college, it was your daddy's on the phone. And so my daddy, I will talk more about him later. Maybe I'll talk a little bit about each of them each different hour. But my daddy John was totally different than Freddie. Laid back, totally different than Rodney. Oh, all three were different. But laid back and chill and nurse your broken heart, all that thing. Rodney was like, buck up. That guy wasn't worth it anyway. Move on with your life. And it's kind of fun just to watch the men around me become fathers. I think we are finally seeing as a society, we are finally seeing as a nation how important fatherhood is. And I feel like if Christian conservatives knew it all along, right? But you look at entire communities that have broken homes. And I say this, again, my kids are very lucky. They're very involved father. But we know how important fathers are in their children's life. So Father's Day, honor your father. When I come back, I'm going to jump back into those elections. We've got U.S. Senate, AG, more coming up. April Marie filling in for Leland. we're going to add to the bingo card, April Marie karaoke. Aw, you know those little flowers? He loves me not. AJ loves me. Can always tell. Does good buffer music here. Was talking about Father's Day as we get into that break. I tell you what, I have just such a, and I get, there are no words to explain how deep my appreciation is for the roles of fathers and how just absolutely blessed beyond measure I was to have my fathers. And even my biological father, Freddie, who I didn't know as well as I know the other two. He didn't come back into my life until after I was an adult. But you fathers, y'all are doing the Lord's work. All right, I've got Rick on the line to talk about Father's Day. Let's see if I can push the button. Did I do that right? Woohoo! All right. Hi,
Yeah.
Rick.
Well, hey, April Marie.
How's it going?
I appreciate AJ. He's trying to lead these young men. You know, everybody's got a father, but ain't many people got fathers.
Yep. You got to do the work. It's not just having a baby.
Ain't that the truth? Well,
Were you blessed with a wonderful
we're all,
father?
We're all looking. Yeah, we're all looking for a good role model, I think.
Yeah.
We've all got one of Jesus Christ too.
Yes, we do, Rick. Absolutely.
That's about all I got.
All right. Well,
Thank you.
I appreciate you taking the time to call.
Love you.
All right. Love you too. Like Rick Collin, throwing a shout out there to the Lord on this Father's Day. Oh man, I started following. There is a guy who does. Do you follow the guy King Randall on Facebook? Have you ever heard of this guy?
No, I have not heard of this person.
Okay, I gotta find his actual page. But there is a man who does this. He does these classes, and he gets together groups of young men. Now he did one with young girls. He does these camps, and he teaches for kids who may not have a father in their life, may not have a father figure, or maybe they have a father in their life who's just not teaching them these things. But he goes out and he teaches. It's one of my favorite. Oh, that was one of the things. Okay. So as I was leading up into this 2 weeks, I thought about some regular segments I want to do. And one of them is going to be to give a shout out to a social media page that I follow, because there are some good ones online. And this is one of them. It's King Randall and he's on Facebook, but I believe he does his videos also on YouTube. But essentially what he does is goes and teaches these young boys the skills that they should be learning from their fathers. He did a class with young girls, and I'm talking about mowing the lawn, pressure washing, checking the pressure in your tires, changing the oil. He did a girls' class and taught them how to turn the water off, which is something I'm not kidding. I recently ended up with this kind of an adventure of trying to turn the water off, find the places to turn the water off at my house, which is, I know, comical, but as a grown woman. But I needed to check something in my bathroom, and all the do-yourself YouTubes that I looked at were like, turn the water off first. And I was like, okay, but where's the water thing? Anyway, this guy's, and then it turned out this guy has a whole video on it, on finding the water cutoff. And I couldn't change the one at the end of the street. I had to go buy a little tool for it. But at any rate, this guy is teaching those skills that you don't even realize as a father you're usually teaching your kids, and they just learn from you. And he's got this page, and he goes out there, boys, young men, and they're predominantly African American, that he's teaching. Young men should know how to act on an airplane, should know all the things you should know about, getting on and off an airplane and listening and following instructions and all of those things. He's done, like I said, pressure washing and lawnmower, doing the lawn, and all these different things. And it's just camp after camp. And I think it's really cool because these are the little things that you can take for granted if you don't have a daddy in your life to teach you these things. Okay, so before I got onto my Father's Day, which will be a recurring theme throughout today's show, I was talking about the elections. Now, I already told you a little bit about the lieutenant governor's election. Over at 1819 News, which is my day job, we do not and cannot endorse, and so publicly endorse in our official capacity. And by the way, that if of all the rules that we have, that one's the hardest for me, because I just want to sometimes say, hey guys, this person's an absolute yahoo. Like, did you notice? Um, but I maintained, by the way. I managed to not do that. So we talked about the lieutenant governor's race. It was a hot mess. John Wall won. We had him in, I believe, the last time I was here in studio, and looking forward to that general election because you couldn't have a stark difference between the candidates. You've got Mr. Gun Grabbing Montgomery, New Yorker, versus a butterfly farmer, grew up on a farm, John Wall. So that'll be a very interesting contrast in terms of just who they are and what they believe and what they want to accomplish. Of course, Doug Jones and Tommy Tuberville rematch. Here's the thing. Doug Jones, and if you want to go back in time, and actually I wrote a story about Roy Moore because Roy Moore won a defamation case, and I can say, and I was watching it in real time when it happened, what happened to Roy Moore and the accusations against him, and the way that they were blown up, and the way that they were treated, and they were expanded upon, and he ended up winning a pretty large defamation suit against one of the PACs that ran commercials against him that essentially said he was a pedophile. And then he won that case, a jury verdict. Then they appealed it. The appeals court said no, you can't have this money. And then just 2 days ago, he went to the U.S. Supreme Court to block them from letting go of that money, and so that he can take it to the Supreme Court. So that was interesting there. But let's not forget, Doug Jones ran as if he was going to be a blue dog Democrat. He was going to be a moderate. He was going to be a Democrat for everybody. He was going to be something a little bit different than your Kamala Harris's or your far leftist nut jobs. And guess what? He wasn't. He wasn't. He got Republicans to back him. He got Republicans to say, this guy's not going to be so bad. And then he tricked them. Who didn't see that coming, okay? And he did everything the Democrats wanted him to do once he got to Washington, D.C. And then once he got replaced in Washington, D.C., he became as far left as you can get. Now, here's what's funny about Doug Jones and the campaign he's running right now. The campaign he's running right now is he's out there saying, oh, Tommy Tuberville's too far right. Oh, he's too extreme. We need somebody moderate. We need somebody measured. Well, you're not that guy, Doug. You're not that guy. And he's out there trying to convince people he is. But then when he's doing like a Democrat podcast, or he's out there showing you who he really supports, the Kamala Harrises of the world, or some of the most leftist left politicians across the country, then you see who he is. But what's killing me about that race is the commercials are all going to be, oh, I'm Doug Jones, and I'm so moderate, and we're going to bring everybody in Alabama together. One of the first things he said he would do, I listened to a podcast. It was painful. It was painful. He said one of the first things he's going to do if he's elected governor is put pornographic material back in the kids section of libraries. I'm moderate. I'm reasonable. I'm the guy for everybody. But here you go. Have genderqueer back in the kids section of the library. That's a priority? And what world, in what day do you wake up in Alabama and people are just waking up and the thing they care about the most is not bringing jobs here. It's not getting crime under control. It's not attracting new businesses. It's not keeping people here after college, which, by the way, we're doing a good job of doing. I can talk about that later. No, it's I'm going to put the pornographic books back in the kids section of the library because that was too extremist of the Republicans to take away. What in the what? That's going to be a fun election to watch. When we come back, I'm going to do it. I've hinted at it a few times, but I'm going to talk about that U.S. Senate race and the hot mess that was the Jared Hudson versus Barry Moore campaigns. Both great guys with great perspectives and different perspectives. And the race was a hot mess at the end. I want to talk about that. You guys hold tight. We'll be back in just a second. everything was going all right. Had one foot out the door. Swear I didn't see. Some final words for me. So what's funny is I have the headphones up so loud, which by the way, Andrew does that. Like I put the headphones on when Andrew leaves and it's like screaming in my ears. But it occurs to me that I'm mouthing in the words here, but the music is so loud in my ears. Very well, this could be going over the air, so I'm a little freaked out now. AJ, for those of you watching on the live feed, and I see there are some of you doing that. AJ's over here giving me some of my favorite country music for buffer music. Love it. Trump is speaking. What has he got going on over there? Let's see. AJ, do we want to go to President Trump for just a minute? Let's see.
Presidency, we rebuilt our military during my first term. Some of it was foolishly given away by the Biden administration. Nobody can even understand that, but not much compared, a lot, but not much compared to what we built. And then a lot was given away by Biden to Ukraine. And they should pay for it, meaning the Europeans should pay for it, but that wasn't in the cards for them. They didn't, nobody asked them to pay. All you have to do is say, take our military, just pay us. Just pay us. Nobody asked. I said, why didn't you pay? Nobody asked us to, sir. I was with the European leaders over the weekend. I said, we gave you $350 billion worth of planes, 300 of weapons of all kinds and other things. And they said, why? I said, why didn't you? And he said, well, nobody ever asked us. So we're going to, now they do pay, Europe pays, and we're trying to get that war ended, Ukraine and Russia. I'd like to see it end. A lot of people. Last week it was reported 34,000 people died. Soldiers, mostly soldiers. I've ended 8 wars. I'm very proud of it, but this was the one I thought might be the easiest of all, and it's turned out to be a little more difficult, but we're going to get it done.
We're going to get it done.
I want to thank the Secretary of the Air Force, who's a friend of mine. He's highly respected. He's a great guy. He's doing a wonderful job out here. Troy, thank you very much. Troy Mink, thank you very much.
All right,
Troy.
this is President Trump speaking before he heads to Camp David. He got a new Air Force One. I'll keep an eye out for if he says he starts talking about Iran or he starts talking about anything else. Right now, just saying thank yous basically for that. I've said this before. I'll say it again. One thing that I sincerely appreciate about President Donald Trump is the availability. We did not see and hear from Biden. Trump will do these press conferences that are seemingly about one issue, where he'll have a photo op in his office about signing a bill, and then he'll give me the media availability. I have this darling girl. I need to actually see if I can get her on at some point because it's really cute. This darling girl that was an intern for me, and she is now a White House press correspondent, and he calls on her. And it is so cool to see this young lady who was a legislative intern not that long ago, who then made her way into television broadcast and is now part of the White House press pool. And Trump has made himself available so that even young people starting out have the ability to ask him questions and for him to respond in a way that we get answers. I was actually watching last night, and I have a dear friend over at, he's at Axios now. He was way back when, a reporter at the Miami Herald. I know him back when, before we had cell phone cameras, he carried around one of those little camcorders, and he would like stalk the Florida State House, and he would interview people, and then he'd go back and put it online. We called it Caputo Cam, or he called it Caputo Cam, and it was kind of a fun thing because you'd end up in the footage of it if you were lobbyists or if you're working campaigns, whatever. I was constantly up at the State House. He's had to sit down with President Trump. And this is a guy who is a liberal, as is most mainstream media. But Trump is making himself available. Now, that said, he's not going to take anything from anyone. We saw him get up and walk out of an interview. He felt like he was being disrespected. It was a whole hot mess of a situation. But we didn't get this with Biden. And I think that this is a new chapter. I think he's making himself more available this time than he did the first term. And this is something that, pivoting back to Alabama elections, that is so very important to me, okay? I love it when our elected officials make themselves available, when they take questions, when they take criticism even, when they speak to what they want to do. To me, that's what we need to come to expect for our elected officials. I covered municipal races, and one of those municipal races I covered way back when was Hoover, and people would approach the mayor, the former mayor, and he would walk off in a huff. He would take a question and be frustrated by it and walk off. You got to be able to take that. You got to be able to say, I'm going to take the hard questions. I'm going to talk to the people who don't agree with me. I'm going to do the hard things and move forward. I look at those city council meetings right now, and it's like a whole different world. If you are in Hoover listening, and you're Hoover, I know a couple Hoover city councilmen who listen. One of them has fabulous hair, by the way. I think it's a great thing to be able to watch these meetings and watch them get along, even when they don't agree. It's really cool. Okay, I mentioned the U.S. Senate race, and then I talked myself right out of the hour here. But I will say, having friends on both sides of that race, and dear friends, by the way, dear friends on both sides, some supporting Barry Moore, some supporting Jared Hudson. I really hope that the meanness of the campaign, and I say meanness, some of those ads were mean. Some of those confrontations were mean, and they became very personal. I think that what ended up happening with that one is, tensions got high, and things just escalated and snowballed so quickly. And the turnaround time from the first election to the runoff election, from the primary to the primary runoff, it just spiraled so quickly that tensions were high. And I'm really hoping we can de-escalate that a little bit. We can talk through some of these problems. I'm going to talk about that more on the flip side. And we still got to get to Attorney General and a couple other races. Hold tight. You're listening to April Marie, filling in for Leland.